I think we've learnt that it's okay to be the small fish in a big pond, because it implies that you're growing and then you're moving you're moving on. Constant growing, moving sort of thing.
So, Monique, good morning to you. It's late here. It's early for you. It doesn't actually. Funny enough, it happened a few times in the last few weeks that I interviewed Australian bands. It doesn't happen that often. How are you doing this morning?
Really good. There's nothing I'd rather be doing, than
you're such a liar.
Music with no, I'm so serious. Like talking about music with like-minded people, it's a privilege. It's great. And it's stopping me from doing other boring stuff. So whatever. It's great.
There you go. I'm a good alternative. Fantastic. Now, we're going to talk obviously about Secrets of the Future, which is almost here. Or should I say it's finally here? How do you feel about that?
Well, it depends, I suppose, when this chat is going live. And it also depends, in the grand scheme of things, given how long we've been working on this album, I suppose you could say it is here, it's right on our doorstep. We're just over 2 weeks away from the official release. And I guess I've sort of I've needed to come to terms with the fact that it's no longer going to be our little secret, no pun intended. Yeah. It's going to be yours, rather. So that's insane.
We'll go into all the meanings behind the songs and why that might be a bit of a challenge. But is it also scary to let go of that baby? Like all of a sudden, definitely, the world is going to hear your music.
That's right. And it's always like that when we release music, no matter whether it's an EP like we've done before or it's the big album, there's always going to be a level of uncertainty as to how it's received. And, even dropping the singles that we've been doing for the last few months, since February this year, that's been, quite unpredictable. Once you let it go, you start getting floods of comments, and whether those are positive or negative, you have no control over that. And I think that but at the same time, while it is nerve-wracking, it's also kind of an exercise in letting go of control and just sort of it's a life lesson, really. Releasing music into the world, it helps you learn to surrender to whatever the process may be, just come what may, kind of thing. And it's good.
There's also a new stage for you guys, because for people like myself, I'm calling you from North America. To us, you're this new band of Nuclear Blast. Now, I know that you've been working hard in your local scene, and that you've got a journey behind you already. But now you're not starting over, but you're starting at a new stage right now. Is that a bit of a mind fuck for you? Because I know that you're somewhat established in your local scene, and all of a sudden now you're again the new kids on the block.
You're absolutely right. It's such an interesting thing to acknowledge. Going from one circle and sort of establishing that circle, and then widening that circle significantly, and all of a sudden people have never heard of you before, and they've got their own preconceived ideas of who you are, and it's this constant stage of first impression every day, which is so unique. But no, I mean, we've had some time to prepare for this. We've been working with Nuclear Blast for the better part of a year now, maybe a little longer than that, actually. I'd say about a year, because that's roughly around the time that things were all settled and sorted. But yeah, and that's been behind the scenes that people haven't really known. So we've been able to adjust to that and know, and even from an Australian point of view, those first impressions have been happening, just on different scales. For example, when we joined our management team, which are an Australian-based management team, that opened up our circle a little bit more as well, because our managers, I'm very blessed to say, have an amazing public profile, and so that, you know, like broaden that. And yeah, so we've been used to this like constant evolution of who's picking us up in new wider circles every month, you know, sort of thing. And I think we've learnt that it's okay to be the small fish in a big pond, because it implies that you're growing and then you're moving you're moving on, constant growing, moving sort of thing. And we never want to stand still. So we'll always welcome those opportunities to be accepted by new audiences.
You were getting a big fish in a small pond. You were becoming that quote unquote go-to band when bigger international bands came for that 1 or 2 shows to Australia, and totally. You guys were that opening act quite a few times now, and that's great. That's already, you know, that's a goal that many bands don't even get to. But you also don't want to be in that stage for 10 years and realize you never left, you know, your own country. How we obviously all know the big examples of the AC/DCs and the Parkway Drives and what have you, but it's not the world has been flooded by Australian acts. How hard, you know, again, for us it looks like, oh, Nuclear Blast found a new band and boom, here they are. But how hard was that work to start leaving your country? Because you know now from, you know, streaming platforms and YouTube that your audience is not just in Australia. Your music is popular in Germany, it's popular in North America, it's popular in Asia. You're gonna have to go there and play there. So how hard is that transition for an Australian band who are geographically so fucking far away from everything?
You're so right. It's we're very aware, and we are so grateful that our music has reached those far corners of the world. I mean, it's also so fitting, I think, because if you think about our music, it belongs over in Europe. Like, I guess, like in terms of like, stylistically, like not just in Europe, not like not
but bands like your sales venues and Is Okay, like, you fit in there.
Yes, no if you think about other similar bands like Vola, Voyager, like, I mean, Voyager, an Australian band, but you know, like those sorts of styles of progressive metalcore sort of situation, they flourish over in so many other countries far away from Australia. So yeah, of course, it only was natural for Nuclear Blast to be the perfect fit for us, because, you know, they're able to help us expand to those wider audiences, and we are so ready to get overseas. We're right on the precipice, you know, like we've set up every system that we need to set up to get over there. Now it's just the fact that we live miles and miles and miles away. And like you said, how absolutely like soul-crushingly hard it is to take those leaps. And I'm talking from a logistical point of view now. Sure. Like, as in, I'm so grateful to say that we've sown the seeds to have the you know, the sort of popularity and the groundswell over in, you know, North America and Europe, to be able to go and play those shows. Now it's just a matter of timing and when, you know, like we've got a few things to do. I mean, we're about to do a small, I say small, but when you're talking distance, it's very far, but like in dates wise, a small Australian headline tour in June. And that's going to, every show we play now is kind of the next stepping stone to overseas, I guess. You know, this headline tour is going to assess like how we go. You know, as you said, we've been doing like major support slots for a couple of years, which has been incredible. But yeah, now it's like sowing those seeds as a headline act and seeing how that goes. So then once that happens, then international is kind of the next step. And I'm just so excited.
It's excessive. There's more than 7 ways to sin. So
a lot of the music with the proggy elements and some of the electronic elements that you guys use, there is an upbeat element, a colorful element to your music, but you deal with some darker themes. And I find that always, I ask bands a lot about this. I find a very interesting discrepancy, because especially when you go play these bigger shows and people check you out for the first time and they just go and have fun, you know, and they start a party on your music. but you're like in your mind going like, well, hey guys, I'm talking about, you know, mental health issues right here, but you're all, you know, having a good time. Is that weird for you as an artist to see that people are just having fun with your music, and, you know, new video out, and oh, I love this song, this makes my day great? It's like, really? Have you listened to what we're saying? How is that for you?
I think it actually comes back to what we were sort of saying before about this surrendering, you know, like, and learning these skills of letting go. Like, so once you create an artistic product and you pour all of that devastation into it, once you have to be able to, it's therapeutic, you know, you have to be able to package that up into its nice little ball of music and then let it go. And however the world perceives it, that is in their hands entirely. And look, I mean, if people are having fun at our shows and people are finding joy in our music, regardless of what the themes are, that is a huge win, you know, because it's just bringing that little bit of extra excitement into the world and into a scene or an industry, you know, like the heavy music industry. There's so much space there for excitement and joy that I guess like sometimes goes unspoken because of the heavy subject matter that we deal with. Of course, we're dealing with so much doom and gloom, which is, I mean, we're always going to be like pouring that into our music. But I think there's kind of a beauty to showing that vulnerability. You're like, there can be a positivity to this as well, because you're helping others and, you know, you're like, you're contributing to a conversation that needs to be had. And after that, once it's let go, it's just like that liberating, therapeutic, cathartic feeling that once you get it then to the next stage, which is on stage, you know, playing it live, you can't help but transform it into something that you have power over. Like if you feel joy when performing these like terrifyingly sad songs, you know, you've taken the power back, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I had a chance, I was listening to the full album, and yeah, some of these songs are terrifyingly bleak. So maybe my first question should have been, are you okay?
Oh, I'm so okay. Like like I said before, it's like therapy, I guess. I know I'm not the first person to pioneer that idea that music can be therapeutic. I take after, you know, a lot of people who, you know, like they champion that idea in all of their music. I'm not the first. But yeah, like I think it's good to be able to let these things out and show people that you're human on the other side of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when we go from the lyrical side to the music side, a couple of videos have been released already, but people that haven't listened to the full album at this point just yet don't know that you guys have quite a few surprises in store, because the singles that have been released are far from the heaviest songs. You know, the songs like Cave and Physical, I think, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, you know,
Physical's a great drop. Yeah,
there's a heaviness to that. You guys bring a lot of different elements, and you seem to, you know, mash a ton of different things together. How does that come to life? Like, does that grow organically, or is this like, hey, we've got 20 ideas, let's turn that into one cool song? Or do you go into the process with like, hey, we want to make sure that we bring a very diverse output? Like, what's the mentality of the band going into creating this album?
It's kind of a little bit all of the above, but there is, like, I have figured this out in recent days. I think when we started out, we were just four musicians with four very different styles of music that we personally like to listen to and engage in. And those just started being like subconsciously poured into our music, you know. Oh, like Brandon loves, you know, J-pop and K-pop, and like those sorts of techie, like very futuristic elements like inherently got poured into our music. And then you've got like Ben's love for hip-hop, and then that kind of like gets poured in there as well through the rhythm section. And like all like sort of little bits and bobs from everywhere were just being thrown into the pot. But then once people started engaging with our music and giving us this feedback, being like, what is this? Like, what's the genre here? You know, there's a couple of different genres being played around with. We started to become a bit more self-aware, and we were like, you're actually right. Like, this isn't necessarily something that you can stick a label on and call it a day. So that's when we started to become a little bit more self-reverential with it and a bit more intentional with those like diverse influences being poured into our music. That's not to say always it's an intentional effort. Sometimes a song just unfolds and we let it unfold. It does. But sometimes there is also, I want to write a song that sounds like Doja Cat. Like, even though, you know, we're not a band that necessarily aligns with that pop, hip hop sphere, it just kind of, it's something that we enjoy as a bit of a challenge to ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, and that's where the title of our last EP, I Don't Know What I Am, came from, because it was kind of this little wink to the idea of we really enjoy all these different genres and we don't know where we really stand there. And then so this album is the development of that, where it's like we've taken that and we've made it an identity, you know, like we've taken this uncertainty and made it certain. I guess it's a little bit meta in that way, you know, made it certain by making it our own, I guess.
Yeah. With all these different influences, are there lines in the sand for the band? Like, if you come with a specific, with you're inspired and with a certain tune, but it's very, very left field. Like, is there still somewhat of a box that everything should fit in?
It can absolutely create like a bit of creative tension in a way. And sometimes that's beautiful, but sometimes it can get tricky. I'm really grateful that I've been working with the band we've been working together since we were kids. 12 years old, 13 years old. So we're family, you know, we know it's not personal, it's just creative. But yeah, I think that there are like sort of certain roles that each of us play in trying to sort of like so you've got super diverse sounds. Like, for example, Miles listens to everything under the sun, and he's like our prog guy. This is our bassist, by the way, Miles Knox. He's like Sungazer, Pliny, Polyphia, but then also like the even weirder sphere of that. And like, I mean, some artists that I don't know personally, but like he gets it from everywhere. Like, he gets all kinds of inspiration, and he pours those in. And then you've got that tension from Brandon, our guitarist, who, you know, that he listens to a very vast variety of music, but that sort of like honestly, like on the other side of the spectrum, like way heavier and like techier and like more metalcore-y sort of thing. So I find that myself and Ben sort of become equalizers in those sort of situations where it's like, okay, at the end of the day, we do need to create something cohesive and something that feels like us. So that's where like there's like a bit of mediation, and we sort of bring it back to this like nice harmonic middle, and that's where most of our songs end up.
Such a waste to sit and hate when you got them on your side. You make the rest roll.
It was interesting, obviously, the video for Dying Light, where it kind of like put the spotlight, if you will, pun intended or not intended, on expectations that come with growing. And all of a sudden, the industry needs you to do things, you know, in the video. It's a caricature of a band having to look a certain way, having to perform a certain way. Part of that is reality of being signed by a larger label, and you know you're going to be faced with some level of that. But was it just kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, this is where we're getting ourselves into by going bigger, or did you have your fair share of having to deal with that kind of bullshit?
I actually love your interpretation because it's like spot on, and I haven't heard anyone say that yet, so I just wanted to pay you a little homage and just say like you nailed it. I think, yeah, there's definitely a bit of tongue-in-cheek to that song. Like, we by no means are big shots yet, you know, like so it is sort of introspective, like, in what's the word, the opposite of retrospective, because I'm talking about the future. It's sort of projecting a little bit into like where we could be headed, sort of thing. But on a more micro scale, those sorts of situations absolutely do happen because of, like, if we're talking about expectations, once you give yourself a platform as an artist, and once you start like creating music that people want to hear and they want more and more of it, you are sort of obliged to fit into a sort of like mold, I guess. And it can be, you're subjecting yourself to some really scary things when you're, you know, when you're putting music out that people want to hear, and when you're putting yourself on the stage or in the light, I get the limelight. And it's just how like sort of scary it can be, and how fleeting it can be, and fragile and volatile sort of thing. Constantly like these expectations of you are always changing. So you always need to try and change yourself and change the way that you act to fit that mold. And what if I'm not doing the right thing? Oh my God, is this, and that's where the dying light comes from. Is this light going to last forever, or is it going to fade as quickly as it came, kind of thing? Like, that's sort of what the chorus explores. It's like, enjoy the time while it lasts, because eventually something's going to shift and you're going to fall right back down where you came from, sort of thing. And like, that's not necessarily true, but it just speaks to the uncertainty of it all, I guess. Yeah. And the things that you need to do to your own personal identity to like waive that uncertainty and to make it certain. Like, it's like, sure, I'm here, I'm in the limelight at this point, I'm in the public eye, but at what cost? You know what I mean? Like, what have I left behind in myself to get here, sort of thing.
Both from a musical perspective and a career perspective, your goal is to take the uncertainty and put it into a certain specific thing. Monique, you're gonna have to do a lot of promotion for this album, and we all hope, obviously, that we can see shows announced, tours announced outside of Australia, because it is a little far for a lot of people to get to, for sure. We'll keep our eyes open and fingers crossed for what's coming. You know, have the best release cycle in just 2 weeks from now when this album comes out, and I can't wait to see all your fans react to the new music, not just the singles, and I wish you all the best with that.
Thank you so much.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.